Our third dignitary to address us is the Honorable Michael Barrett, Member of Parliament for Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands, and Rideau Lakes. Michael succeeded our past friend Gord Brown, and this will be the first time TIA meets Michael at its AGM. Over to you, Mr. MP.
Well, good morning, everyone. It is a pleasure to join you this morning. I mentioned when I came on the call that my wife made waffles this morning, but I forgot to send the invitation out to everyone. So, we're gonna have leftover waffles at the Barrett residence for a few weeks. But I do look forward to our next opportunity to get together and have breakfast.
Yes, well, Michael, could you just put your address in the chat box and we'll be right over.
Sounds fantastic. And it's an incredibly challenging year for everyone, and we've been affected by COVID-19 in varying degrees. Some people with family members who've been afflicted with this illness, some with their livelihoods directly affected by the shutdown that's happened, and of course all of us with our day-to-day lives. And it's important that we do stop the spread. It goes both ways. A good day in New York State and a bad day in Ontario is nothing that anyone in New York State would certainly celebrate. And the same goes this way. When things aren't going well with our friends, neighbors, and relatives on the other side of the water, that's a bad day for us here as well. So for my part in representing the Government of Canada, I have encouraged and I continue to encourage the Government of Canada to have conversations, proactive conversations with the US to lay out a framework for what a reopening looks like. Today's not that day for the border to open, but we do need to have some visibility, and I do think it needs to be a phased reopening when it does happen. I think that there needs to be provisions for who that, or a plan for who that first phase will be. I have suggested anecdotally that perhaps that first phase is people who have long-term property leases or who are property owners on the respective sides of the border, who would be able to either demonstrate a negative COVID-19 test in the last 5 days, as well as to have a quarantine plan in place that respects the quarantine regulations in the respective jurisdiction. And 2 weeks with your neighbors bringing your groceries in for you, but then getting to enjoy your seasonal property with low to no risk to public health. I think that that's a pretty responsible way to get started, and so I do look for the government to do that. I'm in pretty lonely company, I've got to tell you, on my side of the border with respect to federal members who are prepared to talk about the issue. I know that congressional reps in the U.S. in a nonpartisan or bipartisan basis have said that they want to have a conversation about this. They think that our country should be talking. I agree. We want to cooperate on everything. I don't know why we wouldn't cooperate on this. I think that just waiting for infection numbers to drop to zero and then say, okay, now let's make a plan, I don't think that that's particularly wise, and I don't think it's respectful of the people who pay taxes on both sides of the border, people who have family on both sides of the border, and people who live half the year or much of the year in communities on both sides or on the water. So I do want to quickly address law enforcement. I know that there's been some concern. I've heard anecdotes about people saying that they have been, Americans having been targeted by the police. I've spoken with the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. I've spoken with Canada Border Service Agency, as well as the Ontario Provincial Police. I've been advised that there have been no tickets issued for violating the emergency order for boats crossing into Ontario. They don't have any data about that happening. However, there have been a lot of tickets issued by the OPP for people with open alcohol on their boats. That's a rule that's not going to change, particularly during the pandemic. And I imagine if that exchange doesn't go well, in the opinion of law enforcement, that there may be, they may not just give the one fine, they may lay fines for whatever other issues are in place. But I haven't heard about that happening. And the reason I bring that up is I am not hearing from people on our side of the water, from Canadians, about them being ticketed going into the US. And so while I have heard these stories about our friends in the US being ticketed just for crossing the line in the water, I encourage them to contact my office if they were just out for a pleasure cruise, they were not on shore, and if they have an issue where they look like they were picked off, then get in touch with me. What I would ask for in that case is just for you to redact out your personal information and then send a copy of that ticket to my office. That's what my staff are going to ask, and we'll raise that with leadership within the law enforcement, the respective law enforcement agency. But I've been assured that CBSA is not in the Canada Border Service Agency is not in the business of issuing fines. They'll just take your boat and send you home. So I hope that doesn't happen to anyone. But I did want to mention that because it's really important, and I guess my message here is that the relationship that we enjoy between Canada and the US, between all of the friends that are on this call, is so important. Businesses on both sides of the border depend on it and on this relationship. And I know that everyone looks forward all year. We tough out terrible winters in this part of the world so that we can enjoy the most beautiful summer weather that I think that either of our respective nations have to boast in the most incredible picturesque area. For everyone who's wondering what they can do, of course, follow local public health guidelines, wear your mask, wash your hands, maintain that social distancing, but keep reaching out to each other. Everyone that's on this call today, while I won't share my home address as suggested, I do think that we should make sure everyone has each other's email addresses, make sure that everyone can stay connected. It's really important that we check in on each other. We all need to be in good shape so that mentally and physically, so that next year we're ready to get right back to enjoying our beautiful place here. So my last point is to shop local. There's lots of stuff. After we were shut in, it got really easy to order stuff online. Businesses are opening back up. You can even go into a restaurant and eat now, but we've got to shop local, support businesses, continue to, renew whatever services and subscriptions you had, book your slip for next year, make your bookings for next year. Let's nip this COVID-19 in the bud, and let's set our economy up for success so that we can all we can get back to normal. And I know people talk about the new normal, but let's just get back to normal. Look out for each other, and I do hope that everyone has a beautiful and safe summer wherever you're enjoying it this year. Thank you for inviting me to speak with you this morning. Take care.